Hello everyone and welcome to tonight's edition of Olsem Wanem. Finding affordable accommodation is a critical issue for many Papua New Guinean families living in urban centres around the country. High rental fees and minimal land space at an affordable price are some of the grievances voiced by many Papua New Guineans in the working class and low-income families. We take a look at the current turn of events at the government level and explore some of the solutions available, especially the real estate and housing industry.
The continuous pressure and questions raised by the people to the government on what they plan to do to address this issue is working. Papua New Guinea's Treasurer Honourable Don Polye directed his Treasury Department to look into the 2010 PNG Housing and Real Estate Industry Review made by PNG's Independent Consumer and Competition Commission.
It's a very important report. I think the need is there in the real estate sector to be competitive, but at the same time they serve the customers and especially middle-income earners to having an affordable house within the cities, urban centers throughout Papua New Guinea, but also in some parts of the rural areas of Papua New Guinea. So it is a need, and therefore I did instruct my department, the Department of Treasury, to look into the CCC recommendations and come up with a cabinet paper that does address those issues, which I've done. And I have looked at them. I have also done a cabinet paper that the government to deliberate, and government has deliberated on it. The government's decision has been to get the new Minister for Housing and his management team to look at the CCC report as well. So Treasury and the Housing Corporation work together to address the issues that affect low-income earners and the exorbitant housing rentals that we see imposed on our people. So it's a very important a look into that the Department of Treasury did under my direction.
The package of reform initiatives from the ICCC's review also includes the immediate freeing up of state land and inclusion of customary land into the market to address scarcity of raw land, encourage competition and efficiency at every stage of the vertical chain from lease of land under urban development leases, through the subdivision stage to home construction, generating efficiency and creating space for the private sector by winding back inefficient government involvement in housing, encouraging innovation in building materials and design, implementation of an effective consumer protection regime to prevent exploitation of consumers and address opportunistic conduct in real estate industry and building sectors, and well-targeted incentives to private sector provider of microfinance to rural dwellers for community-based housing credit.
Currently I'm living at 8 years. Previously I was living at Koki. What I earn is can afford to meet the rental fees. So I have to move to a place where I can sustain my family.
I'm someone who's beginning, getting a new job and starting, at a really low wage rate. I mean, they can afford a simple female unit or a shared for both male and, females. But then you're going to look at areas like high risks, which you can afford. But then in very prime areas, which is safety is, guaranteed, the rentals are expensive.
You're watching Olsem Wanem. When we come back after the break, more on urbanisation. Real estate agents have their say, and Treasurer Don Polye speaks about competition and regulations. Welcome back to Olsem Wanem. PNG's urban population is growing rapidly. Today it is estimated at over 1 million people, with many migrating from rural villages to towns and cities. However, constrained access to land and adequate housing is an issue for many people in urban centres, including public servants. We speak to the Director Max Kep of the Office of Urbanisation on how the National Urbanisation Policy for PNG captures the housing crisis.
The Office of Urbanization's Director, Mr. Max Kep, reflects upon the second component of the National Urbanization Policy, which refers to the development of sites and services on freehold and customary land, including upgrading of unplanned settlements. In urban locations, public-private partnerships will be trialled to subdivide and develop affordable accommodation. As urban planners, the Office of Urbanization reinforces there must always be crucial planning for the provisions of sewage, water, road, and electricity infrastructure.
We now have a policy in place, and the policy is simply trying to assess all of the things that are happening, including mass migration of people into towns and cities, including growth of towns and cities, including the squatter settlements, including the environmental degradation, law and order issues. Second component is about site and service. And I think the issue that is under discussion through the Olsem Wanem program is Olsem Wanem, and we have a situation where we have very high rental rates. We have large segments of the cities and towns turning into slums, squatters, and informal. And that's a very critical question that we have to ask. How come we are ending up like this? Site and service that the urbanization policy advocates is critical to answering this question. It is the thing that has been failed by our successive governments and every authority to develop land. Every house, everything that development takes place happens on land. And if we don't make land available, properly serviced, properly made into section lot allotments with water, power, sewage, and all the easements, the towns and cities will turn into slums. The second component of the policy advocates that there should be large-scale site and service program. Advocacy is that it should be done by government, by urban and authorities to find the land, develop the land, and make it available for those who want to build their houses. If we want to address the housing issue and assist poor people and ordinary working public servants and even private sector workers, what we have to do is just simply develop more land at government subsidized cost and make it available so people can build up on it. It's a simple case, but it needs political will. The other thing that needs to happen for government to appoint a land development agency or authority, focused, concentrating on developing land, both state land and customary land as well. And towns and cities no longer have the luxury of state land. The only option is to go outside of the state land now and to get customary land by involving customary landowners, assisting them to register their ILGs, making sure that they still have the ownership over it so that they can lease land for housing or for urban expansion. I think that's the only sustainable, feasible and win-win way that we can deal with land shortage. Land is critical to the housing issue. Only because there's shortage of land, you see that the rentals are skyrocketing. We can try to buy legislation or government policy regulate the housing prices. But if there's a market force that is making that kind of situation to emerge, like the demand and supply, the demand is there. People are willing to pay the price. That's why it stays up there. The answer to that is not to control that price, but to increase the supply by increasing the land supply where people can build.
One of the examples of the pressure of urbanization has seen landowners from the Tarama area lease out land to individuals who can't afford the increasing high rents in the city, but rather build their own homes.
Encourage them to look after their land and look after their people and to support them, support one another, and to do something like this on their land and to benefit their own families. You know, this is how, especially my family, this is how we benefit from the land. But we don't sell the land off, we only lease it.
Since its inception in 2009, each tenant signed an agreement with the landowners for a leaseback agreement for the sum of 6,000 per 30-meter by 30-meter plot of land and 50 kina rental thereafter. This is to be used by the tenant for a period of 20 years. The tenants were also fully aware that the land was not fully developed with the necessary services like power, water, and sewage.
It is for the benefit of the landowners. We are not going to demarcate their land so that it's alienated. If they're going to do lease, then it's also good for them. Blocks are clearly demarcated, and then we can provide for the easement, so the easement can come subsequently, all the utilities. So the landowners down past the barracks are in agreement, and surveyors, I believe, will be going soon. But we have a problem with Tarama Valley.
You're watching Olsem Wanem. More to come after the break when real estate agents share their views on the current industry trends and what regulation can bring to the real estate industry. Welcome back to Olsem Wanem. According to government data, the real estate and business services sector grew by 10% last year, down from 20% in 2011. The Department of Treasury forecasted it to fall further to 1.5% this year. This is just one sign that the residential market is slowing down. We scope out some agents who reveal their opinions on current trends.
You can see a lot of developments in different part of Port Moresby and also some other provinces of Papua New Guinea. You can see the influx of development of properties, hotels, and also some other residential properties around Port Moresby. That's why currently I would say that we still have lots of supplies, okay, in terms of residential and commercial. You can see a lot of buildings around right now and some residential developments. And I can see that in 2 or 3 years' time, I would say that there will be a drastic, okay, probably a drastic come down on the part of the rental, okay. In my properties, I don't normally put that my rental that up because I know the fact that 2 or 3 years from now, they will have to go back to the same package that we used to have way back 5 years ago, okay. So that's basically what I've been foreseeing right now. I think as far as regulations are concerned, I believe on the fact that you cannot be able to regulate the price because it so happened that there is a huge demand and there's only few supplies available right now. But I believe in terms of services, in terms of maintenance, in terms of dealing with clients, when it comes to a real estate agent or a real estate company, I think they can be regulated. And everybody dreams to have his own piece of land and house as well, right? Okay, like even those people working in some small companies, as long as they would be able to be provided with a banking loan, okay, coming from some reputable banking institutions. So I would believe that they would be able to get this opportunity that we guys are offering, and also some other companies around here in Port Moresby. And I think there's no such issue with that, okay? Because we are basically trying to look at the interests of every average Papua New Guinean, not only the middle class and not only those high class society of Papua New Guinea, but we are basically targeting the marginalized people, or those average people who are getting about 400 or 500 kina per fortnight salary, at least to be able to grant their dreams, okay? Everybody dreams to have a house, okay? So in this particular project that I and this partner of mine, together with the backup of a banking institution, I believe we will be able to make their dreams come true. I think the government should be able to support these moves and some initiatives coming from those landowners who are actually planning and dreaming to be able to convert those customary lands into a developed land to be able to cater those average Papua New Guineans. I ask the government, okay, to help those people who have the initiatives, those people who are actually dreaming to be able to give this opportunity to every Papua New Guinean, so that they would be able to at least realize and also achieve what they've been dreaming for, to be able to get a piece of land and a nicely done house. That's all.
Currently, we are in a maturing market at the present moment. The supply and the demand are both at equilibrium. From our opinion, regulating the industry, yes, the government can be able to do something to regulate the industry, but regulating prices, if you see prices, they're determined by the supply and demand factors. And if the supply is low, that's when the demand increases. So it's a mechanism of supply and demand. At that time, we didn't have a lot of properties on the market, and the demand started increasing, so prices also increased. Now we're coming to a stage where it's at equilibrium. So although the government would want to see the prices coming down, and for middle class or even lower class Papua New Guineans to own properties, they need to free up a lot of land, and I mean good residential land. They need to free it up. They need to get the state agency like National Housing Commission or Lands Department to go into partnership and free up land, or those existing ones with state leases. They need to exercise those particular conditions or improvement covenant on the leases. They need to be able to use those state agencies and start, creating supply, and it comes back to the government again. At the present moment, these are the end result of what's happening in the economy. When the prices have gone up, people couldn't afford the rentals, so that's the reason why it forced them into those settlements. Now, I'm coming back to the government again. If they are serious about providing affordable accommodations for, middle-income earners to even low-income earners, they seriously need to be able to get their state agencies to look into this problem. And like I said from the start, they need to free up a lot of land. And I know Papua New Guineans can be able to afford to build a house on the land that's provided by the government, and with proper services connected to it. And that's the only way we can be able to provide affordable housing for Papua New Guineans.
You see an influx of people moving in, and then obviously the demand for real estate is up, and poor people like us, the middle wage earners, we can meet the housing rentals. It's very, it's very high. Our salaries couldn't meet, and I believe it's the same with other people in the other centers of Papua New Guinea as well.
The rental prices is ridiculous. It's ridiculously high. There should be a regulator in place to look at such.
That's something really the NCDC should really look at as part of their city expansion plan. City needs to expand, and the landowners, landowner groups, government needs to negotiate with them, secure those lands. So we need to enter into private partner or public-private partnership arrangements with the government and the landowners, and perhaps the employer groups, so we can have some secure the land and then start putting up buildings.
You're watching Olsem Wanem. When we come back, Treasurer Don Pollier has his final say on how the ICCC's initiatives from the PNG Housing and Real Estate Industry Review can be implemented. Welcome back to Olsem Wanem. This year has been dubbed the government's year of implementation, and the general expectation by the people for delivery is high. Recently, Treasurer Don Pollier directed his department to take further actions in ensuring the initiatives concluded in the ICCC report of the real estate industry in 2010 are implemented.
It is serious. It is a critical issue that the government needs to address. My paper and my intention is to making sure that all the recommendations of the ICCC are all implemented by government, and the National Housing Corporation is doing just that, to making sure that that is implemented, and Treasury and the National Housing Corporation are working together to achieve that result. But a question that you asked in regards to our people missing out on affordable accommodation, it is true, and therefore public servants, as well as the employees and professional people in the private sector, resorting to live in the low-cost houses in the settlements and in the villages within the peripheries of the town, etc. That affects them. And this is an issue that we have to address in order to improve productivity and also to grow and see end result will be to grow the economy. Now, in terms of regulation, I like to emphasize here that government would not really want to regulate the industry, but because of the, let me use the word, unfairness created by the housing industry in providing affordable, quality accommodation for Papua New Guinea families, the government can then go down the road of addressing such wrongness. So I'd like to inform the real estate industry and those businesses that are doing business in the areas of providing accommodation for Papua New Guineans. I'd like to urge and encourage all of us and all the players to do fair business, to make a reasonable margin in the profit they make, but not to capitalize on the situation to make Papua New Guinean families suffer.
The Independent Consumer and Competition Commission submitted a written response stating that if the government does consider all its recommendations of the 2010 Real Estate and Housing Report, then most of the housing issues and problems will be resolved. The main aspect of the housing woes is the supply of land, which the government could easily resolve by allocating some of the state land for housing development. And where land is held in traditional land ownership, facilitation with the concerned groups should be done proactively in line with policy decisions and proper coordination amongst all government agencies to implement the given recommendations to achieve the desired outcomes. At the same time, the private sector is the best driver for the market, and if recommendations are implemented, the housing real estate industry could be more competitive and more efficient in providing affordable housing. Most importantly, the Commission is of the view that the rising prices and rentals of housing will subside as the demand is met by increased supply of land. Although, the Commission also advised against rent control or price control of accommodation, as it can suffocate the supply of housing.
And I'd like to make a comment here that our people of Papua New Guinea owning land is a positive thing, it's a wonderful thing, unlike many countries of the world. But how do we commercialize that? How do we use that for business? I think that's a question. And I think the answer is in the area of the land reforms that the Somare government did. And that was done when Puga Temu was a Minister for Lands, and I commend Puga for taking the lead. And these are the reforms we've made, where you free up the land by our people registering themselves under groups called the Incorporated Landowner Groups. And as Treasurer, I like to see the registrations of Papua New Guinea customers on land to take place and progress very efficiently and effectively. And we like to see our landowners also benefit because they own the land. And it's a wonderful thing that we Papua New Guineans own the land. But let's register those lands. Let's organize ourselves into our ILGs and get the surveys involved. I've seen some of those registered and title land myself. When I saw the ILGs, they make land available, and that's a wonderful thing. And that should continue. So our people in the Motu Kotabu part of the city, they hand from the land. They also become partners and shareholders on the business that take place or in whatever form, a structure they put up that people can benefit. But at the same time, you've got businesses that are coming in, individuals are building on house. So I'm seeing this recommendation by the ICCC, I'm seeing it starting to take some effect, and people are working. And that's a very encouraging thing. I want them not only to do in Port Moresby, in Lae, it must happen. In Mount Hagen, it must happen. The landowners in Mount Hagen will have to form themselves into ILGs. There are people in Eastern Islands, they'll have to do that. The Western Islanders, the Angans, Southern Islands, the people in Western Britain and Eastern Britain, and all parts, and even Bougainville, the autonomous region of Bougainville. I'm seeing business is coming into Papua New Guinea. So I'm encouraging the people to form ILGs.
That concludes this edition of Olsem Wanem. We hope it's been helpful. We'll be following the progress of the real estate and housing review throughout the year. We thank the participating agents and their real estate firms who contributed. If you have any questions, you may contact them at their respective offices. Likewise, if you're a customary landowner group and would like more information on the types of support and information the Office of Urbanization can give you, please don't hesitate to contact them at their headquarters in Waigani. Take care and enjoy the rest of your viewing on your #1 station, MTV.